Okay, so let's move on to the lab for the wireless security features. So as you will notice in our lab, we're going to be using Packet Tracer because this is the only simulator that can actually simulate client authentication from a wireless client going to an AP. And while an AP will be able to establish a kappa tunnel going to the WLC. So apparently if you're using EVNG and the GNS3, there's no virtual image or image that can be used for the AP. But for Packet Tracer, we can actually install an AP, right, where the client, wireless clients will connect to. So the first part of the lab will be about how to build a wireless infrastructure using Packet Tracer. The second part will be how to configure WPA2 PSK authentication from a wireless client. And the third part is how to configure PEAP or PEAP for the wireless client to authenticate to the wireless LAN. Right? So going back, so I'm just going to show you how to build a wireless infrastructure with the APs and WLCs, and also including a Dhcp server on the in Packet Tracer. All right. So this is the first part, how to build the topology using Packet Tracer. So task 1.2 is about the configuration of the WLC management. So we're going to be using 10.1.1.10 as the IP address and a /24 and the default gateway of 10.1.1. For the DNS server, we're going to be using the same IP address from the DHCP server, which is supposed to be 10.1.1.3. So we're going to adjust this one later on, which I put .1. Then task number 1.3, we're going to configure the DHCP server and the DHCP scopes. So the IP address of the DHCP server is 10.1.1.3. Okay, then on the DHCP server, let's put the IP address, which is 10.1.1.3 on fast Ethernet 0, then put the /24 on the subnet mask. Then on the services, we need to define the scope. So make sure that you have the correct interface, then you put the correct default gateway, which is 10.1.1.1, in the DNS server. And don't mind the DNS server because we're not going to be using any DNS queries. The start IP address will be 10.1.1.100, and we're going to have a range of another 100. That's why we put a maximum number of users, which is 100. Then we need to save it and verify. Of course, we need to add the WLC IP address here, which is .10, right? Save. Okay, of course, you have to turn the DHCP service on, right? So for that to take effect, yep, it's on. Task number 1.4 is about the configuration of the management laptop, right? Which should be on the same subnet with the DHCP server and the WLC. Well, as long as you have reachability between the management laptop to the WLC, then that's fine. So we need to define the IP address here for the management laptop. Going to be a static IP, which is 10.1.1.20 and the /24, gateway of 1.1, in DNS Server 10.1.1.2. Moving on to test number 1.5, we're going to verify if our APs are able to get the DHCP addresses from the DHCP server. So if you put your mouse over to the AP, you should be able to see the IP addresses reflected. However, some of the APs still shows the default IP, which is 192, but it should reflect the DHCP scope that we assigned, which is coming from 10.1.1.1. AP1 has the correct IP, however AP2 to 4 does not have it yet. So we just need to initialize the link. So as you will notice, I'm trying to disconnect then reconnect it to the APs. Then let's see for a couple of seconds, maybe in a minute, for the DHCP scope to take effect on AP number 2, 3, and 4. Okay, there you go. Now we can see the IP addresses being pulled up by the AP from the DHCP server. Good. So let's move on to test number 1.6, which is about reachability testing from the management laptop to the WLC and the DHCP server. And as you will notice, we can ping the WLC and we can also ping the DHCP server from the management laptop. Okay, so let's now move on initializing the WLC, right? So after we completed the topology, let's configure the WLC. Of course, we assigned the 10.1.1.10 IP address. You have to use HTTPS going to the IP address of the WLC coming from the web browser of the management laptop. Okay, so here's the homepage of the Wireless Lan controller. On first access, you're going to be asked for a new username and password. Let's put the WLC name. Just put whatever, WLC CCNP or ENCOR. And let's just put the IP address again, which is 10.1.1.10/24 and 10.1.1.1. And we're gonna click next. And let's create the first SSID or Wireless Lan network name, which is IT group, and put the security authentication option. Let's put WPA2 personal and put a passphrase or password. Right, then click next. Then apply. Alright, so this will deploy the config and may reboot the WLC, and this will take some time to come up. Okay. Now showing red on the switch side facing the WLC, so let's just wait. From the management laptop, let's do a continuous ping or a ping test. Going to the WLC. So once it's pingable, then we can, yep, it's up. Then we should be able to access it once again from the GUI. So go to the web browser, put https://10.1.1.10. Good, right? So we can access the WLC now. Input the credentials that we created. So let's now move on to task number 2.2, wherein we're gonna add a new SSID called the HR group. So I remember we created another one earlier, right? Which is IT group. So now we're gonna add a new one. It's gonna be named as HR underscore group with an ID number of 2. Then apply. So we haven't set any security authentication yet, or security policy yet. So let's verify if say we assign a client later on, if it's going to be able to connect. Yep, of course HR group is still disabled, so let's have to enable it. Click enable, then apply. Let's verify it's enabled now. Then let's create some more AP groups. So you will notice we have a default AP group where all of the 4 APs are discovered, which is still part of the default AP group. So what we're going to do is to create 2 more AP groups, which will be assigned for the IT group and also for the HR group. The first one is this IT group. And we click add, then HR group. All right, once it's done, then click the IT group once again and go to the APs button. Then associate to the 2 APs, so AP 0 and 01. Associate that back to the IT group, AP group. There. Okay. Then for the HR group, we need to associate the other 2 APs back to that AP group. Okay, we added 2 and 3, then add AP. Click AP group. There. Okay, so here's task number 2.4. We're gonna add 2 clients to the infrastructure, where one of the client will connect to the IT group SSID, then the other client at the bottom will connect to the HR SSID. So I'm going to show you how to configure the clients here. If you click on the first client, you go to config, then wireless 0 interface. Then you need to choose, or first you need to put the SSID where you want this to connect. So the first one is going to IT group. Then you put the type of authentication, which is a PSK, WPA2 PSK. Then don't forget to put the pre-shared key, passphrase. Right, so this should be the same with the one that is configured in the WLC. Then let's configure the second tablet and put the SSID of HR_group. Choose WPA2 PSK, then put the pre-shared key. Okay, once done, then let's go ahead and verify. If you go back to the WLC, just make sure that you have the same config between what you have in the client and also in the in WLC. So she will notice now one of the client is able to connect. That is going to the IT group, but the other is still not able to connect. So let's further verify. So it seems like we have the correct config on the client, but let's check on the WLC. I'm going to log in once again to WLC. Okay, go to the Wireless Lan, then HR group, go to security. Okay, so she will notice, right? What's the problem here? We're using WPA policy instead of WPA2. So we just need to unclick it, then choose the WPA2 policy using AES. Right, that's it. Then let's just re-input the passphrase that we added in the client. After that, then let's verify. Okay, that's it, right? So both of our clients is now able to connect to the wireless infrastructure. So let's go to go back to packet tracer and verify the traffic using the simulation button. Okay, so it's actually a very good tool because you can see exactly what's happening in the network. And as you will notice, we're actually sending or seeing packets being forwarded from the clients going to the AP and going to the switches and going to the WLC, right? So this means that we have connectivity from the wireless client to the WLC. So this is the end of the second lab. Okay, so let's now move on to the third part of the lab, which is about the configuration of WPA2 Enterprise Wireless LAN on the WLC. Okay, so let's move on to the next lab, which is about the configuration of WPA2 Enterprise Wireless LAN on the WLC. So as you will notice on our lab, we have a couple of equipments, and of which we have a switch in between the controller, a management PC, and also the access point, and also a router on top on which our server, which is a radio server, is connected to. So from switch 1, we double click on switch 1, we're going to see that, just check the running config. So this gig 101 connects to the management PC, which is just an access port going to the admin PC, while these ports are configured as trunk using .1Q, and we're using an native VLAN 200, right? So this connects to the WLC, to the LAP or to lightweight access point, and also to R1. Okay, so if we check the router 1 config, right? So gigabit 0/0, that's the downlink interface back to the switch, where we have two sub interfaces. One is for VLAN 5 and another for the native VLAN, right? Which we're using this IP addresses 192.168.200.1 and 192.168.5.1. On this lab, R1 will be used as our DHCP server. So as you will see, we already pre-configured this router as a DHCP server using this subnet 192.168.5.0, right? And this IP address is it's a gigabit 0/0 /0.5, right? Then here we also have a connection to another server, which will be our our radius server. This one, gigabit 0/0/1 with 172.31.1.1/24. Okay. So if we look at the radius server itself and go to services, and we go to AAA, we have already pre-configured the WLC IP address and also the shared secret, which is Cisco 123. Just a matter of adding it here, right? Typing the name here, add the secret, and that's it. Then add it. Okay. Then later on, once we pre-configured everything, right? The WLC and the access point have, was able to get the DHCP IP address from the WLC. Then from the wireless host, we're going to use this credentials, right? So we just added it here on the radio server, which is user1 and user1 pass, right? So once added, then this guy will be able to connect to the access point. Okay. Then if we click on WLC1, the management IP is already pre-configured with this IP 192.168.200.254 and 200.1, which is the gateway, which is the R1. Let's double check. Yep, it's the R1, right? So this subnet, the gateway is in R1, right? And admin PC, which is just used to access the WLC, it's configured with this IP 192.168.200.200. Let's double check if we can access the WLC. So just open a browser, then type HTTPS, then 192.168.200.254. There, right? So we can access the WLC from the admin PC. Check the credentials. There you go, right? So we can access it. If we look at the AP, it's configured with DHCP because it's gonna get the IP address from the WLC when we configure the DHCP scope later on, right? Then the wireless host, we haven't configured anything yet, right? So on the authentication, it's still disabled. So there's a step later on how to what's the correct setting on the authentication side of the wireless host. Okay, so this is the initial lab and how we built the lab for this WPA2 enterprise wireless LAN connectivity on the WLC. Task number 3.1 is about the creation of a new VLAN interface in the WLC. As you may know, each wireless LAN will require a virtual interface on the controller, and these interfaces are known as the dynamic interface. So here we're putting a name of a VLAN or wireless LAN-5 and put a tagging or a VLAN ID number of 5. Okay, so once it's done, then we may need to assign a port number. Here it's going to be number 1. And we need to assign the IP address of the interface. So on our lab, we're going to be using 192.168.5.254, the /24, and we will use .1 as its gateway and also the primary DHCP server. Okay, when it's done, then you need to click apply. So let's now move on to task number 2. We're going to configure the WLC to use a radius server for the authentication. So here you go to security, then click radius and authentication. Then you click new, then put the IP address of the radius server. Right, so in our lab, the IP address of the radius server is 172.31.1.254. And we need to put a shared secret here. Okay, once done, you need to click apply. Alright, let's now go to Wireless Lan tab. Then we create a new Wireless Lan. Right, so go to create new, then click go, then put the new Wireless Lan name. So here we're gonna be using this name, HR group. We're gonna put an SSID, name of SSID 5, and of course the ID should also be 5 as well. Then click apply. So now that the Wireless Lan ID is created, then we may need to configure some features of the network. So if you go to advanced, we need to click on Flex Connect local switching and the Flex Connect local auth. Then click apply. So the next task is the configuration of Wireless Lan security. So if you go to HR group, go to security, and from the layer 2 security, we need to choose WPA and WPA2. Then click on WPA2 policy and use AES as the encryption. Then we're going to choose 802.1x on the key management. Once done, click on the AAA servers. Then if you click on that server 1, then you should be able to see the radius server that you configured earlier, which is 172.31.1.254. Then you need to click apply. Okay, so the next task is the configuration of the Dhcp scopes in the WLC. So here you need to go to the controller, the internal Dhcp, then click new. Then you need to put in the scope name. Okay, then after applying, you need to go back and click on the newly created Dhcp scope. Then you put in the range, which is 192.168.200.240 up to 249. So these are the IP addresses that can be used by the access point. We need to put in the IP address of the network and also the subnet mask, which is /24. We also need to put in the default router or the default gateway, which is .1, which is the router on the topology. And once done, you need to click apply. Right? Let's now verify if the access point will be able to get that IP address. that was created from the WLC Dhcp scope. Okay, now so we can see that the AP is able to get that .240, which is the first IP address that we defined. So with this confirms the configuration of the Dhcp scope from the WLC. So an additional task, let's configure the Snmp trap. So you need to go to management and Snmp, then add a new Snmp. We call it WLAN Snmp, then put in the just put in the IP address of the server, which is .254, then click apply. Okay, then the last task is 3.7, where we're going to configure the host to be able to connect to the wireless LAN. So here, if you open the host, then you need to go to the profiles, then add the name of the profile. Let's say it's a WLC infra. Put OK. And we need to click on advanced setup. And as you will notice, right, we actually have the SSID already, which is SSID 5. And on the radio button, it should be infrastructure mode. And we need to click next after this. So here, there's no need to configure an IP address. We have a couple of options, but here we're going to configure WPA2 enterprise. Click next. You're going to be provided this option, this additional window where authentication available is PEAP. Then put in the user credentials that is already configured in the radio server. Right, after that, you need to click next, then click save. Right, once you click save, then you're gonna get this prompt. Congratulations, the profile has been successfully configured. But the last step that you need to do is to ensure that you let the client connect to the network by clicking the connect to the network button on the client. This will take some time, and just wait until the association to the AP becomes successful. There you go. Yep. It says that it's successfully connected to the AP, and you have this line from the wireless host to the lightweight access point. So task number 3.8 is just connectivity testing. Right. So you will see we're actually being able to send traffic from the wireless host going to the AP. Right. So this is the end of our wireless security feature lab that covers PSK and WPA2 enterprise using PEAP. Thank you very much for watching the video.